Hi, this is Tom from Rocket Restorations, and today we're going to show you how to detail a 1969 440 HP. So this one is going to our 1969 Dodge Daytona, and I'm pretty excited about that project. We'll do a project introduction on that one pretty soon. I need to get it out. There's a couple other videos I want to do. I want to show people body numbers, but I thought this would be helpful to people. So, we're doing pretty close to OE on this one, and Travis is finishing painting it, prepping it for paint. What we use Frank Battleson from American Muscle Car and Performance. We use his paint, and it's an enamel single stage, and we spray it on. So you have to have some skills with painting to do this. That's why I have a Trev. Hi, Trev. He's a really good painter and a really good detail guy with this. So, there's a couple things on here that we're trying to fix. So they put telltales on the freeze plugs. So that's like little buttons they put on there. Basically to tell the machine shop if it overheated or not. So they can basically tell if it's your fault or not if a motor blew up. So we don't like those. So we took those off. The exhaust manifolds are there. We've got shields, and since this is a Daytona, we're trying to do it pretty correct. So there aren't very many reproduction parts on this car. There's a couple we couldn't find, but that the spark plug bracket is correct, and that bolt's underneath there. We use spark plugs that have already been painted multiple times, so we don't have to worry about masking those off. We just paint them. The spark plug brackets go there. The one right there is a reproduction because we couldn't find an original. The fuel pump is actually not correct, but it's a correct-ish aftermarket one. Water pump is original. We had that rebuilt and it's date coded to the motor. You can see right there it says 29, which is February of '69. Has the correct balancer on it. We used an original oil pan, and it did have a little bit of damage, so we had to fix that a little bit. You can see the welds on there. We welded the baffle back in. We had to take the baffle out, but I really wanted to use an original pan on this car. I didn't want to use a reproduction. On Daytona, I thought it was kind of worth it. So we got new heater hose nipples in there. That's an original bracket up there. We just put a paint can lid to block off the distributor hole. You don't want that. Correct intake with the correct part number. Again, 2369. Here's the assembly date on the block. So that's correct. It says E440. E is 1969. 440 is the displacement. It says HP. It's underneath the bracket there. And then the assembly date of the motor was 6/12. And if we look over here, here's the casting number. Again, that's correct for a 440. It has an original oil pump on it. You can see the part number on there. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. So, I've seen factory cars where the negative battery cable is painted all the way to the end. And on this one, we had the original one. It was kind of till there. So he's going to kind of fade that in. But we kind of masked it because it didn't have painted on the original cable that came off the car. The original cable is not in very good condition. This is one thing that took us forever to research, because there's a lot of contradicting stuff on the internet about it. Of course, it won't focus on the nut there. So that's a original throttle cable return bracket that holds the spring for the carburetor to there. And they actually used a lock washer on it, a serrated lock washer for grounding. So it goes bolt, washer, bracket, and then the ground cable goes right there. And again, we kind of lay it over. It's real common on 426 Hemi cars. You see it a lot because those valve covers were not painted. They were wrinkle black. So a lot of times you'll see orange paint on the valve covers. They painted the ground cable on the Hemi cars. They put it on that. This one's a 440. Has the correct valve covers, correct exhaust manifolds. All the nuts, bolts, and fasteners are original. I think the only reproduction ones we used were the exhaust manifold nuts. And these use sleeve nuts right here. So they're actually hollow nuts that go onto the studs. You definitely want to use studs on the exhaust manifolds because they do go into water. You don't want to use bolts on that. You only use bolts if you got headers. And I said that's all the correct hardware. We use repos on that because we couldn't find originals. Original throttle cable bracket and the kickdown linkage because the car is a 440 automatic. We also have a little heat lamp. So this is our first day over 60 in, I don't know, 4 months, give or take. It was actually a really nice sunny day, so it was a perfect day to do this. Here's the other exhaust, or sorry, spark plug wire shield. It actually bolts on top of the bolt right there on the exhaust bolt. On the other side, they actually go under the head bolts. It's kind of hard to see because it's underneath. They actually go under the head bolts. Again, the casting number right there. And then the casting date is on this side. There's the exhaust manifold, 5/15/69, and those are the original manifolds, so original correct date decoded correct. And it was 6/12 assembly date, so that's about a month before, which is perfectly correct. There's the casting number right there. 69. Boy, that's hard to read. Even with the bare eye, it's hard to read, but I think that's 3/8/69, I believe. And there's the VIN. It's the numbers matching transmission for the car. And one easy way to tell if this has ever been modified is these little cut marks right there, the circle marks. If you see those, that means it's original stamping. So that's how they cut it. They had a circular cut. They went through and cut all those when they cut the VIN pads, and they stamped on top. It's actually kind of an ugly, ugly VIN stamping, but it matches the car, so it's the numbers matching motor. It's a really good car. Broadcast sheet, fender tag. It's a really, really good car. So yeah, if you guys see anything we missed, we're always open to a little constructive criticism, but we think this one's pretty correct. We've done a lot of research on this. The heat riser, we still gotta get the spring on there. There's a few other things we gotta finish on this, but Trev's about to paint this thing. And what we do now is we have our engine run stand. We actually run these unpainted now. We used to paint them and then detail them and run them, but we kind of have an engine run stand kit. And we found it's easier to run them unpainted. Sometimes you got to get some grease or oil off of them, and you got to make sure they're really, really clean before you paint them, or else the paint won't stick. But we actually run them now on our engine run stand unpainted. And we think that's a better way to go. So yeah, there's still a few more little details we got to do before we paint this thing, but as I said, I just wanted to go around this thing 3 or 4 times. Hopefully this helps somebody when they're trying to detail their engine at home, trying to get all the correct stuff on there and how they did it from the factory. And you know, and keep in mind there were procedures, there were, you know, little differences here and there. There's the water pump date code, 5/27/69. That's like 2 weeks before the assembly date. And again, anything in that ballpark's pretty good. All right, well, there's a detail in a walk around of a 1969 440 HP going to a 1969 Dodge Daytona. I hope this helps some people out. Thanks for watching. All right, now we've got the engine painted. Just wanted to show you kind of what we do for coverage on this. We try to do kind of what I call the best case scenario. So, you know, guys painting this, they just had a high volume gun. It was an assembly line situation. You know, they painted these at the engine plant, you know, but they were just trying to do them quick and dirty. Like they didn't really care about coverage. So kind of what we do is we do kind of like, you know, we don't want to leave a bunch of bare metal on the block. So we do kind of best case scenario what the assembly line would have done. But you can kind of see right here, you know, there's some shadow underneath the exhaust manifolds there. We try to recreate that. You know, they didn't always get the bottom of the oil pan, but you know, sometimes they got some nice coverage down there to get that. So we try to do, you know, this one we're trying to do is OE as close as possible. If you guys see anything, please point them out to me. I'd love to be open for debate on this stuff, but there's, you know, a lot of variation on how they built these things over the years. You know, there was a standard procedures, but it was just the guy painting. You know, like on this is the ground cable that goes to the firewall on a 69 and before car. 70 does not use that, but you can kind of see we had the original one, so we tried to reproduce that as close as we could. But I've seen them painted all the way to here before. I've seen them painted to there. There's a lot of variation on this stuff. You know, the throttle cable bracket and the kick down lever is all painted. Again, we showed this earlier, the correct ground washer for the ground cable. I've definitely seen the cable painted all the way to the end, but the original cable on this wasn't painted that far. So we try to reproduce that as close as possible. And again, there's just some little bit of overspray there. You know, we always paint it with an oil filter on. That's the break-in oil filter that we had on it. So what we'll do is we'll probably leave that in for another, you know, the first couple test drives, then we'll do an oil change. You want to get all that metal in from the break-in out of there. all the correct wire brackets. Those are important. You know, you want those on there. They're there for a reason. Chrysler didn't put anything on a motor unless there's a good reason for it. They wouldn't spend the money for it. But yeah, now we got this all together. Now we're going to start putting all the gingerbread on. You know, the oil dipstick, you know, spark plug wires, distributor, carburetor, all that fun stuff. So that's kind of the next step with this. But I really hope this helps somebody. I know when I was first starting this, I would have killed for a video like this for all the good detail and the correct parts and fasteners, you know, like little stuff like, you know, studs on the end of the exhaust, on the valve covers, bolts in the middle, all the spark plug shields. So when we get all the accessories on and everything, I'll probably do another video on that. We're still waiting for a few parts to come back. Like the alternator's getting rebuilt right now, and the starter's getting rebuilt right now. We've got day coded, you know, number correct stuff for this car. We're kind of going all out on this one. We've got a lot of NOS parts that are going in the suspension, and so this is gonna be a really nice build once we're done. You know, all the correct plating. It's a Daytona, it deserves all these parts. There's a lot of NOS parts I've been hoarding for a while that are gonna end up on this car. Some ended up on my last car, but most of them are gonna end up on this car, so. All right, well, I hope this was helpful to people. Again, a OE correct build for a 1969 Dodge Daytona. And thanks everybody for watching. This is Tom with Rocker Restorations, and we'll talk to you soon.